When I first launched Drive Club, I didn't know what to expect. I had heard very mixed things about the game. On one side, I heard fans saying that this is one of the best racers that I have ever played, and on the other side, I heard a lot of that the game is missing content, it's unpolished, it's missing things. But when I launched the game for myself, this has to be one of the biggest surprises that I have tried in modern racing games. Now, before I continue with the video, I have to state something. I have never played Drive Club up until very recently. So I do not have the opportunity to experience a lot of the DLC that this game had. And I'm going to go into this later in the video, but I must say now that I only have the ability to play with what the game had in it at launch. Drive Club is the most raw, visceral, simcade racer that I have played in such a long time. In a world of boring, monotonous racing games, Drive Club truly stands out as an unforgiving, challenging experience that I will never forget. Now in this video, I'm going over a few of the reasons why I think Drive Club stands out so much from a lot of the other games of this type, but I'm also going into some of the flaws that the game has and why the game is in its current state. But for now, sit back and relax because we're going to be taking an in-depth look at Drive Club. One of the most immediate things that stood out to me when I launched Drive Club for the first time is how unbelievable the landscapes and tracks are in this game. Drive Club has 6 main locations and they are all incredibly varied in beauty and in climate and in terrain. Let's look at all 6 and see what makes them all special and unique. Let's start off with Canada. Drive Club's Canadian locale takes place in British Columbia mostly, which is a fantastic thing for me because that's where I live, so I may be a little biased here, but my goodness, does Drive Club ever do it justice. Look at the Cayush Point, for example. The start of the point-to-point sprint starts you off in the middle of tight, twisty switchback mountain roads, decorated with sky-high mountains, full of trees and greenery, and it will lead you all the way to this beautiful, stunning farmland all the way at the end. Or if you prefer a more technical approach, you can race around the technical streets of Vancouver's waterfront. Canada is by far one of my favorite locations in Drive Club. Now, after taking a look at what makes Canada so special, we have to look at Chile. Chile has some of the best long sweeping corners in all of Drive Club, and the very hot desert climate is a very standout location, and some of the background racing scenery here is absolutely top notch. When it comes to the landscape, the vegetation all over the map, some of the locations here are incredible. You have very tall hills and very incredible drift roads. Chile has some of the best spots if you want to take your favorite cars and just try drifting some of these tracks, or even if you enjoy just going on backroad blasts, it's the perfect spot for you. Next up, we have India. India has to be, I believe, my second favorite spot in this game. I absolutely love racing here. One of the first things I noticed when I was in India for the first time in Drive Club was the particle effects are absolutely incredible here. Whether it's from the water spraying on the fields in the background, to the dirt and dust which gets thrown up under your tires, the flower petals that will get thrown across the track. The particle effects here in India are very noticeable, and the development team at Drive Club did a fantastic job at making it special. Aside from the incredible particle effects, we also have to look at the gorgeous hills and all of the incredible houses and that bridge at the end of the race, which is absolutely stunning. And that bridge at the end really does act as a visual treat for you finishing the lap. Next up, we have Japan, and Japan is a fan favorite. The maps themselves are very varied. We're going to start off with Nakasendo. I love running this one at night. Showcases all of the incredible tunnels, the small town in the middle, and makes those mountain switchbacks even more treacherous. You even have spots like the Takamagi Hills with the jaw-dropping cherry blossoms and the next level mountain view up at the top. Japan is stunning and a fantastic showcase of Drive Club's vast color palette. Now, if you're not a fan of the super bright sunny atmospheres, Drive Club has you covered with Norway. Now forgive me for my horrible pronunciation here, But my favorite track in Norway is the Hurrungane. This section of tarmac is dark, moody, but at the same time beautifully peaceful. It really makes you feel like you were the only thing up on those mountains. This section is full of long, high-speed mountain passes, and that tundra set piece all the way at the end of the map makes this drive so well worth it. Now, Scotland is the final location I need to talk about in Driveclub, and spots like the Kyle are a perfect showcase to what makes Scotland beautiful. The Kyle has a lot of high-speed sections in the middle of a very vast open plains setting, and the old-age stone brick buildings that are scattered across the track are an incredible, unique addition. Now, I've talked a lot about how good the locations look in this game, but I need to touch on the graphics in general of this game. I'm gonna go out and say it now. This is the best looking racing game that I have played to date. The texture quality and lighting and particle effects in this game are second to none. Everything looks just absolutely incredible. And this game came out in 2014. And it still looks better than most new games today. Not only is this incredible to look at, but it's an incredible feat of developing prowess. If you think that this had to run on the original PlayStation 4, this is incredible. And a massive hats off to everyone who worked and was able to pull this off. Another thing that adds on to what makes this graphics so special is the unbelievable weather in this game. The rain in Driveclub is intense. Not only to look at, but to drive through as well. When it comes to the little details with how the rain droplets on your windshield will move from side to side depending on the G-forces of your vehicle. Rain is also dynamic, which is also great because you have to be on your toes at all times. You don't know if it's going to start raining all of a sudden, so you better be prepared. Day and night progression is also a thing in Driveclub, so you can set either a race to start in the day and then it slowly transitions to the night, and you can set the exact speed that you want it to do so. Now next up, I need to talk about what makes the cars in Driveclub special. Driveclub is a perfect example of my personal preference when it comes to car lists. Small, but incredibly well detailed. All of the cars in this game have so much time spent into making them feel exactly like the real life versions, with all sorts of little attention to detail moments that add to this immersion and truly make you feel like this is not a video game. Little things like such as on Mercedes-Benz models, the temperature gauge, instead of like 80 degrees Celsius like most vehicles, it'll actually show it at 90, just like how they do in real life. And how the infotainment screens in the center of your car will actually display like what they would in real life. That doesn't even have to be there. Most games leave those screens blank and don't even turn them on, but Driveclub actually took the time to copy what the manufacturer did and put it in game. And another little touch is when you're driving a car with paddle shifters, whenever you start to approach redline, your driver will slowly start to lift up their fingers in anticipation for the next gear change. And how if you're driving a vehicle equipped with a manual transmission, you will see the shifter go through all the individual gears and gates respectively. And how if you move the camera down, you can actually see your legs pushing on the clutch, gas, brake, and it's not just an on-off switch, it's progressive too. So if you slowly get on the brake, you'll slowly get on the brake with your character. While yes, all of these cars are incredibly detailed, and I'm going to get into the sounds a little later, the only issue I have with the car list is another double-edged sword, because while it's an issue with the game, it also is what leads the game to be so detailed. And it's the fact that the list is so small. And like I said, I just argued the point that the smaller car list will lead into more detailed cars. But for a game with around 60 cars in it, in 2014 standards, that's really not that impressive. And if there was one con to the list, it would be the car size. And like I said at the beginning, I know there was DLC cars, but you have to look at this from the launch perspective and from the perspective of someone who is buying the game today. Now, the next thing I need to talk about when it comes to Driveclub would be its incredible sounds. Now let's start off with the sounds of the actual cars in-game. Driveclub's car sounds are among the absolute best in the industry. And today I'm going to show you a few examples of the best sounding cars in the game. Take a listen. Now, as you can hear, they sound incredible. Are they perfect? No, they're definitely not perfect. Some of the cars tend to have a little bit of a dropout when you get close to red line. They'll kind of stop sounding as loud, they'll stop building, but in general, these sounds are top notch. And it's not just the car sounds too. All of the ambient background noise and the little, chirping birds in the background and all of that, it all sounds excellent. And that doesn't even mention the other sounds your car can make, such as the tire noises, which are fantastically realistic, and your windshield wipers. When the rain goes, you can hear them doing the little click, click, click. It really is immersive. Now, I'm going to refer back to the title of this video. A classic racer in a modern racing game suit. Driveclub plays very much like an old school racing game does. One of the reasons why it does this is because of the physics. The physics are much more realistic than I had expected coming into this game. I expected a much more arcadey feel, almost like a Forza feel to the physics, but they feel very different. They're not actually comparable to any other game that I've necessarily played. Let's compare it to some of the Forza games, for example. I notice a lot when I'm playing, especially the Horizon games. The cars tend to have a very stiff feeling to them, like the body is completely rigid and cannot move at all. But when you play a game like Driveclub, all four corners of the car feel alive and different. So you can truly feel the back end of the car moving in ways that you just can't in Forza. I found that Driveclub's handling has a little more of a learning curve to it than games like Forza, but once you master it, the handling in this game is absolutely fantastic. I really enjoy driving in this game, and it has a standard handling mode as well as a hardcore mode, which is great because for the first 10 XP levels of the game, it restricts you to being in the standard mode. But once you hit level 10, you unlock hardcore handling, which will allow you to experience the game in a much more true way. Side note to the physics, the traction control in this game is fantastic. It gives you a perfect amount of slip with a rear-wheel drive car, but also keeps you in check. Next up would be the actual gameplay. There is no rewind or any little flashback thing like in Forza or in the Formula 1 games. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake. And you better learn from it because this game is not going to let you forget it. I really miss when games didn't hold your hand. Like, again, I'm bringing up Forza a lot in this video, but the Forza games with the rewind system, while it's very good for new people who are not new to driving games, it makes the gameplay too easy and it doesn't allow you to think critically in certain situations. Because you can just try something, and if it doesn't work, you just rewind. But when you play a game like Driveclub or Gran Turismo, there's no rewind. You gotta think about it once, and you better choose the right decision. If you're gonna make that overtake, you better do it right, because there's no going back. Now, something that leads into this would be the AI. I found that the opponent AI in this game is not great, but it's not horrible at the same time. They tend to be quite aggressive when you're really close to them, but at the same time, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's different. I find Driveclub really shines when you're just doing time trials and stuff like that, but when it comes to circuit races, the AI is okay. Now, when it comes to your standard campaign mode, Driveclub has what's called the Driveclub Tour. This is a really long campaign mode. It's got 166 stars for you to earn in order to unlock the final championship, and the gameplay structure of the championship is built on completing single events which will give you stars, and you use these stars to unlock championships. There are a lot of events and championships in this game, and it's going to take you a long time to actually go through and fully complete this game. There are 3 main event types that are used in these championships. You have your circuit races and your point-to-point races. You also have time trials, which pretty self-explanatory there. And then you have your drift events. I find drifting in Driveclub to not necessarily be its strong suit, although it's still done pretty well. My personal favorite, though, would be time trial. I love just taking, your favorite car and you just rip it down a point-to-point or a circuit, and you're just trying to get the absolute fastest time possible. Now let's talk about unlocking cars in this game. a very important aspect of what makes this game like older ones in the past. Cars in Driveclub are not purchased. They are unlocked by your XP level. I really like this aspect as it rewards gameplay progression. So instead of giving you the cars that you want, you have to earn them, and they will give it to you after you've actually completed a certain target. There are no handouts here. If you start off the game, you'll only have maybe 1 or 2 cars, and that's it. You're not going to be able to get a big cash boost at the start to be able to buy whatever you want at the end. Nope. You got to play the game, you got to earn it. And guess what? This makes it so much more rewarding, because if you're dreaming of driving that Pagani Huayra since the start of the game and you finally earn it, it is so much more satisfying than being handed a big wad of cash at the start of the game and saying, hey, buy whatever you want with this. So now that I've explained all of the aspects individually that makes Driveclub so different and unique, let's take a look at a race to show you how it looks in action. So the final topic I want to bring up in this video would be, why did Driveclub fail? Well, I'll tell you why it did not fail. It wasn't for a lack of passion, creativity, and talent from the development team. As you've seen so far in the video, the developers behind this game and the project leads truly had a vision. And from everything that they got right, they got really right. The reason why Driveclub failed was due to a very poor launch. Server issues, bugs, poor sales, it all led to Sony shutting down further development and investment in the IP. This is truly unfortunate, as the ingredients here could have led up to something that is absolutely incredible. And I think the finished product in 2021 is still a very enjoyable game, but it stings a little bit to know what could have been from this project if it got the right backing and if it got the extra time that it needed. You know, I'm going to insert the famous quote here. A rushed game is forever bad, but a delayed game will eventually be good. We've seen this again very, very recently with Cyberpunk 2077. The game had so many aspects to it that could have been absolutely incredible, but the game was just rushed and rushed in order to meet deadlines and sales figures, and it flopped. It 100% flopped. This is not a thing that is exclusive to Driveclub or Cyberpunk. This has happened many times in the past, and it's gonna happen in the future again, and it's an unfortunate reality of gaming industry. Now, I'm on a bit of a downer here, but don't worry, I'm gonna bring it right back. So if you have not played Driveclub yet, first off, I highly encourage you to go play it. If you have a PlayStation 4 or a PlayStation 5, I highly recommend go getting out a copy and playing it. If you have not owned it before, and I don't know how to play it on PS4, but I know on PlayStation 5 it's not available on the PlayStation Store, so all you need to do is get a PS4 game disc. I got mine off Amazon for maybe $30-40. It was definitely well worth it, but I don't think you can find it on the PlayStation 4 store anymore. Again, don't quote me on that as I'm not 100% sure, but I believe if you want to play it on PS4, you just get a disc, just like the exact same way on PS5. Okay, so that is it for this video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone for watching this video. This one, I hope you like all the new editing tricks I tried in this one. I've been experimenting a little more, trying to go a little more editing intense in some of the videos, I guess I would say. But if you like that style, please let me know in the comments. And if you're new to the channel, please, consider giving me a subscribe. I'll be posting lots more content like this in the future, and I hope you all enjoy them.